She had dreams. She was a final-year university student. She was a mother. She was weeks away from graduation. This is the story of Simphiwe Zinhle Mchunu, a 23-year-old whose murder in November 2025 exposed the devastating reality of gender-based violence in South Africa and the systemic failures that enabled her death. This is not just a true crime story. It is a story about a crisis that kills 3 women every single day in this country. And it is a story about what we need to change. Zinhle Simphiwe Mchunu was born in Ladysmith, KwaZulu Natal. She was the daughter of a family that believed in education, in progress, in the possibility that their child could build a better future. At 23, she was enrolled at the University of KwaZulu Natal, one of South Africa's premier universities, studying for a degree in education. She was in her final year. Graduation was weeks away. Teaching in South Africa is a noble profession, but a challenging one. South Africa faces a critical shortage of qualified teachers, particularly in mathematics and science. Zinhle had committed 4 years of her life to prepare for this profession. She was going to make a difference. She was going to inspire young minds. She was going to be a role model. But Zinhle was not a typical university student. At 20 years old, she became a mother. She had a daughter now 3 years old. Imagine that responsibility, being a full-time university student, being a single mother, managing the stress, the financial burden, the emotional weight. And still, she persisted. She was in her final year. She was about to achieve her qualification and provide for her child. Zinhle also had family members who supported her, a sister living in Gauteng, a brother, parents in Ladysmith, a family that loved her, a family that was proud of her achievements, a family that believed in her future. But there was something else in Zinhle's life, something darker, something that was invisible to many people around her. She was in an intimate relationship with a man named Themba Xaba. He was 22 years old. They were living together in Umlazi, a large township south of Durban, and in that relationship, Zinhle was not safe. When we look back at Zinhle's relationship with Themba Xaba, there are clear warning signs, the kinds of behaviours that intimate partner violence researchers identify as red flags, as indicators of danger. These signs were present in Zinhle's life, though whether she recognized them as dangerous is something we cannot know for certain. First, surveillance and location monitoring. Zinhle kept her location services on at all times, and Xaba was aware of this. Her sister could track her location. Xaba could track her location. This might seem like a safety measure, a way to stay connected, but researchers who study intimate partner violence recognize this as a form of control. When one partner monitors the other's location constantly, it communicates distrust. It limits autonomy, and it can be used to trap and control. Second, financial control. Xaba had possession of Zinhle's bank card. Think about what this means. She could not access her own money without his permission. She could not make independent financial decisions. Financial control is recognized as a form of intimate partner abuse. It creates dependence. It prevents escape. Third, communication control. Xaba had Zinhle's phones. Her 2 phones were in his possession. He had deleted conversations from his own device. When one partner controls the other's communication, when they have access to phones, emails, social media, it is isolating. It prevents the person from reaching out for help. It gives the controlling partner information they can use to limit freedom. These 3 behaviors, surveillance, financial control, and communication control, are classic indicators of what researchers call intimate partner coercion or intimate partner control. They are red flags. They are warning signs that violence may be present or may escalate. But how many people around Zinhle recognized these signs? How many people understood that she was in danger? According to her cousin, when asked if there had been any indication of abuse, he said, "I did not see any indication. It has been 4 months since I saw her. I was hoping to see her this December." This is the invisibility of intimate partner control. It is not always obvious. It is not always visible. It hides in intimate spaces, in private moments, in a relationship that looks normal from the outside. On November 22, 2025, everything changed. That morning, Zinhle and Xaba went to Spur restaurant together for lunch. It was a normal outing, or at least it appeared to be, but that was the last time Zinhle was seen alive. At around 7:00 p.m. that evening, something happened. We do not know exactly what. We know that an argument occurred. We know that Zinhle's location history, the digital record of where her phone had been, was permanently deleted at that time. This is significant. Someone with access to her phone took action to erase evidence of their movements. Someone was hiding something. Later, when Xaba contacted Zinhle's sister, who was living in Gauteng at the time, he told a story. He said they had fought. He said Zinhle had packed a suitcase with a few things, left in the middle of the night, and went to her ex-boyfriend's house. He said he did not follow her. He said he thought she would come back. It is a story that is designed to explain her disappearance, to suggest she left of her own volition. But the sister did not believe this story, and when she thought about it more carefully, neither should we. Here is why. If Zinhle left of her own volition, if she packed a suitcase and left in the middle of the night, why would she leave behind her phones? Why would she leave her laptop? Why would she leave her handbag with her identification and money? Why would a mother leave her young daughter? The story does not make sense. The family became concerned. Zinhle's sister in Gauteng contacted other family members. They made a plan. They would travel to Durban, meet with Xaba at the police station, and file a missing persons report. They would find out what had really happened to Zinhle. But as the family was traveling to Durban, Xaba left the city. He went back to Ladysmith, to his family home. What does this tell us? A person who has not harmed their partner, a person who is innocent, typically cooperates with the investigation. They answer questions, they help search, they provide information, they do not flee. The fact that Xaba left the city is telling. When the family arrived in Durban, they learned something even more alarming. Friends of Zinhle had reported her missing, and they had shared text messages with police and family. In those messages, Xaba had asked his landlord for tools to dig the ground. Tools to dig. This is explicit indication of intent to bury something. This is a confession in a text message. The family and police went to the property where Zinhle and Xaba had been living, and what they found was disturbing. Zinhle's phones, her laptop, her clothes, her handbag, all left behind. But Xaba had her bank card. He had her phones in his pocket, and when questioned about the tools, he said he needed them to burn rubbish. A convenient story. Here is where something crucial happened. The investigation stalled. Police conducted a search of the property, but they did not find anything. The family searched the yard, combing through every inch, according to reports, but they did not find Zinhle either. Xaba was not immediately arrested. Days turned into weeks, and Zinhle remained missing. This is important context. The police station at Umlazi is overwhelmed. Umlazi is one of the largest townships in South Africa, with over 600,000 people. It is ranked among the top 30 police stations in the country for serious crimes. It is ranked number 1 for attempted murders. The officers at that station are dealing with gang violence, drug trafficking, robbery, rape, and murder on a daily basis. A missing persons report, even with concerning indicators, might not get the intensive resources it warrants. But that does not explain why Zinhle was not found sooner. There were clear indicators of foul play. There was evidence of intent to bury remains. There was suspicious behavior from the boyfriend. And yet, for nearly a month, the case went nowhere. How many families of missing persons experience this same frustration? How many cases go cold because police lack the capacity or resources to investigate thoroughly? Then something changed. The family made a decision that would prove crucial. They hired a private investigator. Let that sink in for a moment. In South Africa, if you can afford to hire a private investigator, you have a better chance of justice. If you are poor, if you cannot afford these services, your loved one may remain missing forever. This is an inequality in the justice system that demands our attention. The private investigator began conducting interviews, developing intelligence, and pursuing leads that the police investigation had not pursued with sufficient vigor. And it was this investigator's work that broke the case open. Let that also sink in. A murder investigation in South Africa can depend on whether the family can afford to hire private investigators. Is that justice? Is that the system we want? On December 19, 2025, nearly a month after Zinhle disappeared, the family received a late-night phone call from police. The detective was on his way to Ladysmith. They were told not to sleep. When the detective arrived, He asked for water. He asked for Zinhle's identification document. The family member interviewed by the media described a moment of terrible dread. They knew what was coming. The detective explained that they had picked up Themba Xaba. Initially, he denied everything, but after one night in custody, Xaba asked to speak to the detective. The family speculates, and it is a reasonable speculation, that Xaba confessed because he knew police were preparing to search the property with cadaver detection dogs. K9 units trained to detect human remains are remarkably effective. Before those dogs found the body, confessing might have seemed strategically preferable to maintaining his denial until overwhelming forensic evidence proved his guilt. Xaba directed police to where Zinhle's body had been buried. On December 22, 2025, exactly 1 month after she went missing, her remains were discovered. Her body was in her suitcase, buried in a shallow grave in the yard. The suitcase was covered with rubbish. Debris had been burned on top of the grave. She had suffered multiple stab wounds. For Zinhle's family, the discovery brought an end to the uncertainty of not knowing, but it brought the unbearable reality of knowing that she was dead. They had walked over her body while searching the yard. Xaba's claim that he needed tools to burn rubbish was covering up the fact that he was burying their daughter, their sister, their mother's child. But here is what is crucial to understand. Without the private investigator, without the K9 unit, without Xaba's confession, Zinhle would likely still be buried in that yard. The investigation would likely be stalled, postponed, effectively abandoned. Her family might never have found her. This is the reality of under-resourced policing in South Africa. Zinhle's death is one murder among thousands. South Africa has one of the highest femicide rates in the world. We are talking about 5.5 femicides per 100,000 women, nearly 5 times the global average. In the period from April 2021 to March 2024, over 13,000 women were killed in South Africa. 13,000. That is not a statistic. That is 13,000 daughters, sisters, mothers, friends. 3 women are killed by intimate partners in South Africa every single day. Every single day. 1 woman every 8 hours is murdered by the person she is in a relationship with. This is the most extreme form of intimate partner violence, and it is preventable. Zinhle's death could have been prevented. In KwaZulu Natal province alone, the province where Zinhle was murdered, the statistics are staggering. Between October and December 2024, 110 women were murdered in the province. 110. Of those, 64 were shot, 24 were stabbed, 15 were beaten, 4 suffered blunt force trauma, 3 were burned to death. And the majority, were killed by people they knew. Intimate partners, ex-partners, family members. Why does this happen? Researchers and experts point to multiple overlapping causes. First, patriarchal gender norms. South African society, like many societies, has been structured around the idea that men should be dominant, that women should be subordinate, that male authority and control in intimate relationships are normal and acceptable. These norms are taught to us from childhood, through families, through religion, through media. They become invisible. We think it is just how things are. Second, economic inequality. Women are more likely to be unemployed, to earn less money, to have limited economic resources. When a woman is economically dependent on an intimate partner, she is trapped. She cannot leave, even if the relationship becomes dangerous. Where would she go? How would she support her children? This economic dependence creates vulnerability. Third, weak enforcement of laws. South Africa has comprehensive laws against domestic violence, sexual assault, and murder, but these laws are not enforced consistently. Conviction rates for sexual assault remain disturbingly low. Many abusers never face consequences, so they continue their behavior, escalating over time. There is no deterrent. No one is stopping them. Fourth, limited support services. There are not enough shelters for women fleeing violence. There are not enough counselors. There is limited legal aid. Young mothers like Zinhle, experiencing relationship control and abuse, do not have adequate services to help them recognize the danger and leave safely. And finally, it is normalized. Violence against women is normalized in South African society. It is expected. It is accepted. And because it is normalized, it is not taken as seriously as it should be. People blame the victims. Why did not she leave? What did she do to provoke him? Why was she in that relationship? These victim-blaming questions ignore the real barriers to escape and the real danger that victims face. But the tragedy of Zinhle's death extends beyond her. There is a 3-year-old girl, Zinhle's daughter, who is now an orphan. According to family members, she is constantly asking about her mother. At 3 years old, your mother is the entire world. She is safety, she is food, she is comfort, she is everything, and now she is gone. This child will grow up without her mother. She will be raised by extended family, grandparents, aunts, uncles, who are themselves processing grief and trauma. The economic security that Zinhle's eventual employment as a teacher would have provided is gone. The educational support that Zinhle, as an educator, would have provided is gone. The sense of identity, of having an educated mother who was making a difference in the world, that is gone. Research shows that children who lose parents to violence are at elevated risk for multiple harms: emotional and behavioral problems, learning difficulties, unhealthy relationships in the future, and increased risk of perpetrating or experiencing violence themselves. Zinhle's daughter is now at risk for a cycle of poverty, limited opportunity, and continued vulnerability to violence. Her death has consequences that will ripple through this child's entire life. This is the hidden cost of femicide in South Africa. It is not just the women who die, it is the children they leave behind. So what needs to change? How do we prevent murders like Zinhle's from happening again? Experts point to several critical areas. First, we need to educate young people, boys and girls, about healthy relationships, about recognizing warning signs of abuse, about the unacceptability of control and violence. This education needs to happen in schools, in communities, in homes, and it needs to start early. Second, we need to engage men and boys. Men are the primary perpetrators of intimate partner violence. Prevention must involve teaching men that their masculinity does not depend on controlling women, that equality in relationships is not weakness, that respect and empathy are strength. Third, we need better investigation and enforcement. Police need more resources, more training, more investigators dedicated to gender-based violence. The private investigator in Zinhle's case was crucial, but justice should not depend on whether families can afford private investigators. It should be the job of police. Fourth, we need accessible support services. Shelters, counseling, legal aid, economic support for women who want to leave dangerous relationships. These services should be free, accessible, and available everywhere in South Africa, not just in major cities. Fifth, we need to transform social norms. We need to make it clear that violence against women is unacceptable, that controlling behavior is abuse, that women's autonomy and safety are non-negotiable, and we need to challenge the attitudes that blame victims instead of holding perpetrators accountable. Sixth, we need effective legal response. Conviction rates for gender-based violence need to increase. Sentences need to be consistent and meaningful, and the legal system needs to prioritize victim protection and safety. Simphiwe Zinhle Mchunu was 23 years old. She was a university student. She was a teacher in training. She was a mother. She was weeks away from graduation, and she is dead, murdered by the person she was in an intimate relationship with. Her death could have been prevented. At multiple points in her relationship with Themba Xaba, interventions could have saved her life. Education about controlling behavior, support to leave the relationship, legal intervention, better police investigation, any one of these could have made a difference. But it did not happen, and now Zinhle is dead, and her 3-year-old daughter is orphaned, and South Africa has lost another young woman to femicide. This is not inevitable. This is not just how things are. South Africa can do better. It must do better. And the change starts with understanding, with recognizing that intimate partner violence is not a private matter, it is a public crisis. With understanding that controlling behaviors are warning signs. With understanding that every woman deserves safety, autonomy, respect, and dignity. If you or someone you know is experiencing intimate partner violence, please reach out. Help is available. You do not have to face this alone. And if you know of abuse, speak up. Do not let it be invisible. Do not let it be normalized. Speak up. Simphiwe Mchunu's death demands that we do better. Let her memory inspire us to create a South Africa where women are safe, where girls can grow up without fear, where young mothers can pursue their dreams without the threat of intimate partner violence, where every woman is valued, protected, and respected. This video was created as an educational documentary on femicide and gender-based violence in South Africa. The facts presented are based on public reporting, court records, and research on intimate partner violence. Simphiwe Mchunu's story deserves to be told, not for entertainment, but to inspire change. Resources and support services. National Domestic Violence Hotline 800-150-150. National Rape Crisis Line 802-25689. Thuthuzela Care Centres, supporting survivors of sexual assault. Local shelters and support organizations available in your area.